So in this video, we're going to be covering retail workers' rights during the holiday season. Everything you need to know about what it means to be either a part-time, seasonal, or contract employee as a retail worker. My name is Bilal Qasim, Managing Partner at Pacific Workers, and let's dive right in. The holiday season is upon us. That means lots of jobs are going to be out there, lots of opportunity for people in the gig environment to pick up extra hours working at either retail or shipping facilities to help with the holiday rush. There seems to be a lot of confusion about the fact whether or not someone is an employee, even if they're only hired part-time, seasonally, or on a contract basis for a set period of time. In this particular season, the holiday season, and whether or not that impacts their workers' compensation rights. So to start, in California, if you're an employee, it does not matter what you are. A part-time worker, a seasonal worker, a full-time worker, or a contract employee, you get workers' compensation. That means you are entitled to medical care as well as financial benefits, including temporary disability, permanent disability, and a training voucher if you have permanent disability in regards to your workers' compensation case. That can impact your case in different ways, though. So, for example, your temporary disability rate as well as your permanent disability rate are determined by your average weekly earnings. That means how much money you're paid on a weekly basis. So someone who is maybe part-time at a lower pay rate will not have the same temporary disability rate or maybe even permanent disability rate, subject to minimums and maximums, as someone who is a full-time employee. But again, that does not change the fact that they would be entitled to workers' compensation medical treatment. The other way that temporary or part-time work may impact your benefits is whether or not you'd be entitled to ongoing temporary disability outside the season that you're hired for. The whole idea behind temporary disability is that as you are recovering and you're off your injury, that you should be compensated for your lost wages. The insurance argument for seasonal workers is that you don't have any lost wages beyond the season that you're working in because, well, it's seasonal work. So that's on the insurance company to prove that you weren't hired as an ongoing employee, that you were only hired for that particular season and that there was going to be a cutoff time for your employment. But that is certainly something to consider. But again, that wouldn't necessarily offset your right to medical treatment and would not offset your right to permanent disability. Permanent disability benefits do not matter whether or not you are a seasonal employee or part-time employee. It's calculated in the same way and paid in the same way. So there is no cutoff based on when your employment would end. The other way seasonal and part-time work impacts a workers' comp case is when it comes to permanent work restrictions. In most cases in workers' comp, the employer is obligated to engage in what's called the good faith interactive process, meaning they take your permanent work restrictions and determine whether or not there's anything that they can do to accommodate those work restrictions to keep you employed. The reason being that it's illegal to discriminate based on disabilities in California as well as federally, so they have to engage in that process to try to keep you on board. However, if they can't and you have permanent disability, then they're obligated to offer you something in California called the Supplemental Job Displacement Benefit, which it's a voucher that's good for up to $6,000 in job retraining or education to help you get back on your feet to the extent you're displaced from your employment. Now, the reason why this becomes an issue in seasonal work is because they may not necessarily have to offer you modified work if you're a seasonal employee, being that there was no obligation to keep you on beyond the season that you were hired for. So it's something else to consider. It doesn't come up in every case, but the idea is there that it may impact your right to benefits either way. But the bottom line is, if you're a seasonal, part-time, or contract employee, you are entitled to workers' compensation benefits in California. Happy holidays.